Welcome to the Deconstructed Woman Podcast, a podcast about breaking down barriers between women, exploring and sharing perspectives of each individual woman's experience, and discovering what we have in common and what makes us different. Hosted by Elisa Marie and Jojy.
Welcome back to another episode of The Deconstructed Woman. Today, I have my bestie on the podcast. She's my co-host for today. And we're going to be talking about being in your 70s and having the joy of grandchildren and the hardship of losing dear friends and trying to figure out how does that all come together for my friend. And so I'd like to introduce everybody to Pat. Hey, Pat.
Hello there.
Yes. And so I think you and I have talked about this conversation before about how hard it is to be aging and to lose friends that you've known for a long time. And then also how does that all fit also with the joy you have found with moving up to Wisconsin to be closer to your son as well as to your two beautiful granddaughters. So tell me about that as we're talking about it.
I've given this some thought, and I think that they're in many ways they're separate issues, but then in many ways it just reinforces the circle of life, and there's a certain amount of comfort in that. My friends were my family because I had a very dysfunctional family, and I was separated from them. And my friends became extremely important to me very early on in my 20s, in my late teens and my early 20s. So the loss for me was as if it was close family members when I started losing my friends. And one of my friends, I've known her my entire adult life. And we traveled together. We did a lot of things together. And she died very unexpectedly. She seemed very healthy in many ways, and she died very unexpectedly. And I talked to her like a few days before, which I'm very grateful for. And my other friends were far away, and I didn't necessarily get to be there nor to their memorial services or anything like that. And I think all that is important as reality check because sometimes I can't believe they're gone. But on the other hand, and so that loss is tremendous and it's there. And every time I have another loss, it reinforces all the other loss, brings them back, not reinforces them, but brings back all that. It's very sad. I believe in the circle of life. I believe in life after death. I feel their spirits are with me. I call them my angels and I call on them frequently, but I miss them tremendously. But here comes these two little angels that have brought me more joy than I've ever known in my life, I think. And even when I had my own boys, who I dearly adore, it's a whole different level of love again. In some ways, you feel an emotional roller coaster, but not really, because you still experience the loss and you miss your friends. But here are these two little dancing angels in front of you, and it just surpasses the love that you've known before. So it's a different love from what you feel for your friends, a different love than you feel for your parents. It's an entirely different level. And I'm so grateful that I have known these different levels of love in my life. I'm so grateful for that.
They're experienced at the same time, maybe, but they're very different emotions. Is there a way that having grandchildren or different kinds of joy can decrease the feelings of loss when you lose significant people in your life? And what I found was that no, it doesn't. That ultimately your grief for the loss of your family, friends, or whomever in your older years is extremely dramatic and traumatic. And yet there might be a whole different experience in your life with your grandchildren and other ways that you find hope for your elder years, but really they're two separate experiences. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you just
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. I definitely experienced that. Yeah.
Do you think that it would be harder to deal with your close friends that have passed if you didn't have the girls in your life or a very full life with your family?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the joy you feel is so tremendous. And I hate to say they're a distraction, but it is like a distraction from the other. I don't know how I would be if I didn't have my grandchildren because the losses that I have experienced have been very traumatic for me. But there is an interesting thing I heard, if I may, about this, that grief is like a stone, and it's a heavy stone, and you put it in your pocket. And when it's first there, you feel it all the time. You just feel it all the time. But as you go on about your life, it it becomes less and less noticeable, but still there. And I thought that was really a good analogy in many ways because I don't go around crying all the time. Most of the time I don't. But it's still there. It's always there. And things will come up and you think, "Oh, oh, she's not there anymore. Oh, I should call. Oh, he's not there anymore." But that stone becomes less and less noticeable, but it's still there. And so you're able to move on and embrace the joys that you do find along the way. And I think because I'm as old as I am, I appreciate those so much more. I think that we take a lot of our happiness and joys for granted when we're younger, and that includes the friendships.
Well,
So the love I feel from my granddaughters, I try very hard not to take that for granted. Every single time I see them and every single time they hug me, it's okay. Today is a good day.
yeah, I don't think you know this, but yesterday I went to a memorial service for one of my coworkers' moms who passed away in an unpredictable fashion. And
Oh,
yesterday, it took me back to when a family is grieving and the surprise associated with loss and how people are trying to figure out how do they move past this. And so I was able to experience that yesterday and thinking about this is so fresh in their minds. And so your analogy of a stone in your pocket really makes sense to me because when you're fresh in grief, it's like you cannot stop thinking about the person that you've lost. It's like
right,
around you 24/7. And as we know, as time passes, that does get less and less in the front of your mind, but it never does go away, nor should it, because that person had great meaning in your life. And so I do think of it like right now, she's got that stone in her front pocket and it is just bugging her because
yeah,
she feels it all the time. And I can see that.
yeah,
And yet I pray for her and I hope for her that she's going to get to a place where she will have good memories and remember the good times as well as all the weeks that she spent in the hospital when this unknown situation was unraveling, which is where her mind is right now a lot.
yeah,
Reliving that and thinking about the decisions and what should you have done and how would you have known. And there's not anyway, right? It's just what it is. So it is so challenging to get past that emotion and that feeling in your pocket. I'm never going to be able to not think about this all the time or being caught unaware and it just surprises you and you're overrun by emotion, right? So that it's a really hard place for somebody to be. But
yeah,
on the other side, I also wanted to talk to you about I'm on this longevity kick and I want to live to be 100 and the things that are associated with that are social connection and eating right and staying healthy and moving your body and things like that. And some of the reading that I did as I was prepping for this talked about how some of the hardest things for people as they get older is to not be isolated, not fall into a depression, not eat healthy, and take care of themselves because they are feeling so disconnected from people. And I remember when you told me that you and your husband were going to move to Wisconsin to be closer to the kids, it was so devastating as a friend who got to see you on a weekly basis, talking to you multiple times a week and seeing you at least once a week, if not more. It was so devastating. But at the same time, it was also the best thing for you and your husband as you were looking at, okay, what is the next X amount of years going to look like? So
Yeah.
with the move to Wisconsin, you checked off all those boxes because you're not isolated. You live close to the kids and you guys interact on a weekly basis. You're far from being isolated because you interact with them socially and their family in Wisconsin now all the time. And I think that must keep your depression at bay because you are surrounded by these two loves of your life and the light in your heart. And I've just noticed that about you, that you are so much more lighter and freer and full of love than I remember when you guys were living out here. And so it's been a really good move for you, but tell me how you've experienced that.
Okay. I will tell you that I miss my friends back in Geneva, something fierce. My neighbors, we had the best neighbors in the whole wide world, as you know them.
Mhm.
And they were just wonderful. I miss you like crazy because even though we talk, we still have a weekly lunch together, hope most of the time. And uh, I still miss sitting across from you. And it's great to keep that. I'm blessed to have that relationship alive. But I find it really hard to make friends up here. I think when you're 70 and you've had friends that you can say for 40 years and 50 years and even 75 years, because I still am in touch with some of the people that I went to kindergarten with. So
Amazing.
to try and have a I don't know what a meaningful friendship is like at 70. I'm still anxious to find out what that is. Yeah. I have made one friend here, but I hate to drain her. So I would look to try and find other other friends here. And then they say you can go to the senior citizens center and they have programs, and that's true, but I haven't done that.
Right. Something that I don't know. It doesn't sound really welcoming, does it? To go to the senior citizen center. The image it conjures up is now, oh, let me put my boots on and go out there right now.
That's true. I think most people in their 70s do not want to consider themselves senior citizens. Okay. Those are old people.
Right. And of course, you're not old. So why would you go there? Do they
Well,
need volunteers? What happens?
my
Why would you go there?
my 91-year-old aunt doesn't consider herself a senior citizen either. So I think I'm in good company. But I even had an experience when we took our granddaughter to the beach one day and grandpa goes down and plays with her in the water because that's hard for me to do physically. And so I was sitting on the beach and there was a couple sitting nearby. And of course, the woman starts commenting on the granddaughter, but then we ended up talking. And then she's, "Do you play Mahjong?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And she said, "I'd be happy to teach you. Come on Thursday afternoon to the Senior Citizens Center in Heartland and meet me there, and I'll teach you and you can join us." And I thought, isn't that lovely? How nice is that? How nice is that? I haven't been there yet.
But at least now there's a reason to go on Thursdays. That's a lot more engaging than seeing some publication that's a senior citizen center. It just, yeah, that the picture is not really welcoming. But I also want you to talk about the work that you do with taking care of the kids a couple of days a week because
Oh,
and I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn to say you've had some physical difficulties with walking and now you're taking care of these two young girls on different days, but one is 4 and one is 2, and they're always in motion. They're always moving. And what has that done for your physical keeping up with these kids and the way you were when you lived out here before you had children, grandchildren, and before you went out there? Can you compare like how physical you were before that time. Of course, you were a couple years younger, but at the same time now, you are doing a lot more walking and going to the playground and going to the indoor playground and all the other adventures you share with me on those Tuesday lunches that we have.
Oh, it's unbelievable. They just are constantly in motion. Thank God we don't have both of them together at the same time too often. What when we do, it's usually right around bedtime, and then they go to bed. But one at a time, it's still, I would tell you, it is totally exhausting. At the end of the day, both my husband and I are like totally exhausted. I would not give it up for anything in the world. And we take on extra days when we can. And then we say, thank goodness we only see each one of them once a week. But we have the littlest one all day on Monday, and she's growing fast, and she's inquisitive, and she's into things all the time. And yet she loves to cuddle, so she will sit with me. She'll take me by the hand, point to the chair, and say, "Come on." And I sit down, and she climbs in my lap, and she just cuddles. And I say, "Thank you, God. This this is my level of activity." But then she's off, and you never know where she's going, what she's doing. So you have to get up and run after her. And of course, when she refuses to do things, "I'm gonna get you" is a big thing. So you have to get up and you have to, "I'm gonna get you," and then you run through the house. So it keeps you on the move all the time. And I wouldn't give any of it up for anything in the world. But yes, the activity level definitely increases on the days of when we have the girls.
Yeah.
And the other one now is going to pre-K. So we only get her on Thursday afternoons. And then we just had her on last Friday for the whole day because she was off from school. School is closed. So we had her for the whole day. And she's, "Come on, let's do this. Come on, let's do that." Or she wants to sit and just watch her cartoons. And then we're like, "Come on, let's go. We're going to the indoor playground." And that's a huge place. And yes, we follow her around and watch her play. And sometimes we engage with her if she wants us to. And well, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Yeah, but it's a good exhausting. And from my perspective, as somebody who wants you to stay healthy and mobile and be around for a lot more years, it's been a wonderful thing to watch because we all do get set in our routines. And this really broke up your routine.
Oh,
And as hard as I know it is for you guys, it amazes me because I am 20 years younger than you, and I cannot believe how much joy you get from chasing these two kids 2 days a week and taking up every opportunity you can to add on another day if something happens and you're in your mind blessed with having them again. I get tired listening to you guys.
oh
And
yeah.
but as a friend of yours, I am so excited that it gives you something to do and it keeps you physical, because otherwise I think you were doing a lot of seated activities, whether
Yeah.
you were doing chair yoga or whatever. This really gives you the opportunity to get up and use the muscles that you may not have used before. And so I have personally seen and been so gratified. Not that I had a lot of control over you not moving to Wisconsin, but if I was going to lose you to anything, losing you to your grandchildren is one of the few things I can't argue with. And so it has been a pleasure to watch you just light up and get so engaged and stay so active that it has been really wonderful to see. And that's why I come up there to see you too, because I want some of that activity when I need grandchildren time. I need to come up there and spend time with those two wonderful little girls because they're just a joy. They're absolutely a joy without a doubt.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, they are my joy. And I wish some of my other friends were here to see it too, because I know that they would love it. But I know they're with us in spirit. So that's a good thing. And I get comfort from that. But these girls it's very hard to explain the intensity of it, but you see it, you feel it as well being with me and around me. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that the other thing that brings me so much happiness in terms of your move up there is how engaged you are with them. Everything you love to do, they are the beneficiaries of that. So you love to bake, and so they get birthday cakes that you bake for them, which are very special. How many grandparents have baked a Paw Patrol cake or done all these different things that you're learning how obviously you're a fantastic baker and a master cook and everything else. But in terms of really having to figure out, like, how do you make a double layer cake that also has Paw Patrol colors on it or little figurines on it. And I love all the hand knit sweaters that you make for the girls and how much pleasure it gives you to make these things for them that they also love wearing. I remember when your second granddaughter refused to take a sweater off because grandma made it and that she wore it for days on end. And that's got to make you feel like that's a memory that you will treasure until, your last day, because it's so beautiful and it's so rewarding. And you also do quilting, and there might be a time maybe that they benefit in from that as well. You have a lot of hobbies, and so you keep up with it, and they benefit from that because you find a way to include them so that they can see all the different expressions of the love you feel for them.
Yeah, I was giving me another jolt of thrill when the other day I was knitting while Shelby, the oldest, was here. And she said, Nana, will you teach me how to knit?
Ah,
Of course, she always wants to do everything that you're doing at the time. But I said, when you're 5 years old, I'll teach you to knit if you want to learn, because that's when I learned how to knit, was when I was 5. And she's got the attention span of a gnat, but I think that we could get her started. And she bakes with me sometimes too, which is really fun. She just loves to get up there on the stool and bake with me. So I think that's really fun. And hopefully I'm making some memories for her that she will hold on to. So I think about that too when I'm doing these things with her, that we're creating memories that hopefully she will have for the rest of her life. Now that she's 4.5. So perhaps then she'll be able to retain some of the memories in her life.
yes. And I think that is, who taught you to knit when you were 5?
My mother.
Your mother. Okay. And so I do feel like that is part of it too, is for us, since I'm a grandmother too, it feels like you can't imagine a time where you're not in their life and they're not in your life. But I
Yeah,
guess one part of that is that when they're not a part of your life anymore, that's because you've ceased to exist and maybe you don't know that anymore. Maybe you're not aware of it. But I do think that there is something to be said for them remembering us and keeping our life alive and our what they remember us for.
yeah,
And even though it can feel selfish, I don't think it is selfish because it's a kind of love that they won't know from anybody else, because
right.
nobody loves them like their grandparents love them, because it is a very different kind of love. It's completely unconditional. There's just, it's a win for everybody involved.
Yeah,
But I think there's some interesting learning, not necessarily going back to the sadder parts of grief, but I do feel it's really interesting that they're two different processes. And I guess that one of the questions that I have in my mind is how do you think there's any interplay between the loss of friends and also having grandchildren? Not that there's a direct correlation in any way, but do you think that in one way or the other that maybe loss reminds you of how to respect joy or vice versa?
in the sense that, boy, I don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me.
I just mean not that joy replaces the grief of your loss of a friend or someone, but almost like it could be a distraction. I think you mentioned that before. Or do you feel like before you get too sad or stuck in a place, you have a day with the kids that you're watching them. And so that automatically gets you out of that funk because you have to be attentive to them when they're there. I guess that's what I'm looking for, is that one doesn't replace the other, but
Right.
yet there's some way that it creates enough of an imbalance that you don't get stuck there.
Absolutely. I think we have, as individuals, I think we have tremendous capacity for love, for memories, for joy. Unfortunately, I think we have a huge capacity for grief, but I think that's harder. So I think that these other things are there to help balance that, the joy and the memories. And as you get older, you understand that's what's going to get the person through their life happier. And so you try very hard to do that for your grandchildren, for my son and his wife. I want them to have good memories of me. Maybe he didn't have such great memories of me when he was young. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm sure it was a perfect mother, but to create, to go on and create memories for them so that when I'm gone, their grief can be less or better. No, not better, but so they have these memories that will get them through. And I think that helped. The love of my friends got me through so much in my life. And I understand that and see that now. And I want to pass that on to the people that I love. Let's have some great memories so that we can have them now and you can have them later.
Yeah, I think that really beautifully ties up the idea of the circle of life and the fact that you are making cherished memories so that your kids will say, yeah, you did know grandma and grandpa and they loved you and they treasured every moment with you. And so you're right. It's going to be the gift that keeps giving well after you're gone.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I gosh, it's sort of, on one hand, that's a really hopeful message. On the other hand, it's a sad message. But at the same time, I do feel like that is what should encourage all of us to stay connected with our family because we don't have endless time together, right? We have to make the most of what we have. And
Right.
life is unpredictable. And so you got to live with no regrets. And I know, friend, that you are living with no regrets in terms of how much time you spend with your grandchildren.
Oh, I'll tell you what, if I had the energy and if my son and daughter in law were so inclined, I would spend more time with them. But every now and then we're like, wouldn't you guys like a date night so we can stay with the kids in the evening? Yeah. And they look at us like, what are you nuts or what? But that's a less energy time is when we go there and get them ready for bed and into bed and then they go to sleep and we will just watch over them. So we look forward to those times as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a win win for everybody. Pat, the time flies when we talk together. We know that every Tuesday when we have lunch together on the phone. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts or I am happy to close us out?
the only other thing I was thinking about was I did have a close friend of mine that passed, and her husband, she and her husband had a wonderful marriage and everything. She had two daughters. She spent her entire life after her husband passed away from alcoholism dwelling on that. And she was miserable, and her daughters were miserable. And I think it is possible if one chooses to hang on to the grief and keep that stone holding in your hand in front of your face instead of putting it in your pocket. And that's not, I would say, that's not the way to go. You have to put that stone in your pocket. You have to find the things in life that bring you joy so you can pass that on and you can have wonderful memories with your family and your friends if they be your family like mine were. So I'm blessed to have the friends I have. I'm blessed to have you for a friend. I will never leave you. I will always be with you. Even after I go on, I'll still be on your shoulder. So you have to know that.
Yes,
And
but will you be the angel or the devil? I don't know. You
well,
have a devilish side to you.
remains to be seen, doesn't it? But anyway, I guess I just wanted to cover that one little aspect of the situation. And I would say to anybody, though you have grief, though you have the stone in your pocket, choose to be joyful, choose to find ways to make good memories with the people you love, whomever they may be.
Yeah. And in that situation, I don't necessarily need to identify if I know this person or not. I think I might, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think that's also such a sad story because it didn't sound like she had a perfect marriage or a perfect relationship with her spouse who would just by the fact of having alcoholism, that's not an easy thing to navigate in your life. But yet it's like that's all she's willing to hold on to. And it just makes me so sad for somebody who could have a second half of their life in a very different respect, and yet they choose to be downtrodden or sad. And what a waste of life.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is. It was. And she said, I don't care. I just want to be with him. And she ruined her life. I don't know. Who am I to say? But I guess that's the way it was supposed to be. We have some control in choosing to not let that take us down that path.
Absolutely. You know what? That is a really important statement because anybody, any grief episode can take you down to a bad place. And you have to have things in place that stop you from going down a slippery slope because life can also be really long. You can't will yourself to die just because you're in grief, even though there are points in that grief that you do will yourself to die. But at
Right.
the same time, you have to find a way out of that. And also the impact that, this person is having on her own adult children and what that means for those families and the legacy of depression and anxiety and stress and unhappiness. I wouldn't wish that on anybody because it's a very hard place to be. And so I think you serve to teach us a lesson about that to say we do have a choice and
Yeah.
no reason to keep yourself down now that the person who may have made you, given you most challenge in your life is gone. And this might have been an opportunity for a rebirth or a redo, but yet the only way you can see to live is to keep yourself stuck. That makes me really sad for that individual, that whole family, actually. But
Yeah.
I'm also glad that you and I won't choose that because we love life too much. We love our grandchildren too much. And we also love our friends a lot and want to make every moment with them special. And with that, I think this has been a wonderful conversation, which I knew it would be. Wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but it's been a great conversation. I think we've covered a lot of different things. And I hope that the listeners get something out of this as well. And you can always reach out and give us what you think. You can subscribe to our podcast if you'd like to do that. We'd love to have you as a regular listener through the Deconstructed Woman Podcast. As well as if you enjoyed this topic, please rate this episode and our podcast, and that will give us a sign that you want to hear more topics like this. So this is Jojy signing off. And once again, a big thank you to my best friend, Pat, as she took her time today to spend it with me. And we will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, The Deconstructed Woman. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your friends, rate this episode, or subscribe to be notified of all new content. We want to hear from you, our listener. Do you have thoughts on the discussions we're having? Want to share topic suggestions? Or want to join us for a topic that you're passionate about? Contact us at our email address, thedeconstructedwoman@gmail.com.